Hi everybody, welcome to episode 39 of the Run to the Hills podcast. This week we have a chat with the awesome Katie Kaars Sijpesteijn, and I'll try and extract some wisdom from my upcoming Bob Graham round. Before we catch up with Katie, I'd like to introduce my co-host, 252 marathon runner, Edwina Sutton. How's it going, Eddie?
We've just beaten a record, actually, because you've already been told off twice and we hadn't even started recording the podcast. We're getting to that stage of our relationship, aren't we, where I'm really turning into the nagging co-host. I'm good, thank you. I actually am sitting. I've had to come into the shade because it was 26 degrees here today.
Wow. Wowzers.
No, got in the car.
Aircon.
Windows down, Gary. Windows down. Aircon. Yeah, finally we had a sunny day and I spent it sweating. Is there any other way to spend a long day?
That's good.
So I'm pacing my mate. I'm doing a race, Gary.
Ooh.
I'm pacing my mate at Geneva Half. So when this podcast goes out on Friday, that's the day. She's aiming to run a 1:30. And I nonchalantly said a few weeks ago, I'll run that with you. I'll pace you around. Oh, now I'm thinking, oh dear. So I'm going to have a taper. I'm going to have a taper tomorrow, Gary, on Thursday.
A mini taper
And just do an hour and a half of training instead of, really rest up. And so I did a big session today and in the sunshine, what a difference that makes. Glorious.
High pressure though, Eddie. The taper is the pace and a friend responsibility. I wouldn't...
Well, this leads me on nicely.
Oh.
Yes, so I was told by coach not to do my big volume session today because he said, look, a 1.5 hour marathon is still pretty punchy. Respect that a bit, Eddie. It'll be fine. And then, but I whined enough to him say, all right, I'll put it back in the plan, be it on your own head.
Yes.
So I did a really hard session yesterday. And you remember last week I told you about the 30-30s uphill. Yeah. Well, this week you thought it couldn't get any worse. It got worse. I dropped the kids off at school and I thought I'd just check my plan and see. I'm sure it's 3 by 8 minutes, but I'll just check the rest in between. Yeah. And I opened it up and the worst thing ever. It's not 3, it's 4 by 8.
Ooh.
You were having a joke. I almost slammed my boot back in my car and got back in my car. So no, it's not possible.
That's 36 minutes, isn't it, of effort?
4 by 8 minutes, Gary, is not 36.
All right, 16, 24. Yeah, 32. Okay, fair enough.
32 minutes of the third set was actually the hardest because I always think the last one, because you're almost finished, you can convince yourself to do anything. The third one, I literally went at one point. I was like, oh. Anyway, after the third one, I chose a different mountain that I knew I could get to the top with no snow and that I didn't have to keep trucking back up and down to find the uphill because we still got a lot of snow here. And got to finish the third one, thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. And my mate appeared from the mist. And I was like, you can run with me on the last one. Oh, it's like a dee-dee-dee. So she ran up behind me on the last one, which was lovely. So, but it was better than the last time. I know I did a lot of whining about it last time, but this was better. I was stronger. I didn't die. I managed to run home without crying.
You made it.
And then today I did my big volume and tomorrow I taper. So it's an absolute Eddie Classic training week, that, isn't it?
What's Vienna, the course like?
Geneva. Well, what it is, we were meant to do it 2 years. I mean, I've lost track of how long we've been here in lockdown, but we entered it maybe 2 years ago and then it was cancelled and then it was cancelled again. And then now you can just go and get your dossard, we call them in France, and then you can go pick it up and then you choose your time. There's so many times and they've got it all set up and you get a chip time and everything and you just run it and go get it. So that's what we're going to do. I saw a mate had done it a couple of days ago on Strava and it's like an out and back one way along the lake.
Ooh.
10K, and then out and back 10K. A massive 49 meters of climbing. So my real speciality, my only worry is I don't have any road shoes. My friend's got carbon plated shoes.
We need to get on it with these, like the influencers. We get some free.
Come on, can you get me some night vapor flies by Friday? Well, today. I'm going to have to wear my old muddy trail shoes.
Well, Richard, he converts his vapor flies the last week's show.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, great.
Are you now going to, for your Bob Graham, have you sent off your vapor flies to get your grip on?
No.
Right, let's go. Let's hit. My training is boring. Let's talk about. You've been very quiet on.
Very quiet. Yeah, I didn't even name the run on Strava.
I didn't even see it. It never even appeared up on my feed.
It did go up.
Well, you don't. Sometimes you don't see everybody's. Yeah. Or someone comes up like 2 days later or something.
Yeah.
Talk me through it. Tell me the story.
Well, where do we talk? Well, so, my goodness me, Bob Graham round, leg one, support for a friend, Ali Bailey, who, first off, my goodness me, he absolutely smashed it. He joined
so I don't even know. I haven't asked you anything because I wanted the reaction reel. What did he do in the end?
His plan was 19 hours and he completed it in 1757 or something.
Wowzers.
So he goes on there's a page on the Bob Graham round, like special page for the sub-18 crew, and he will be on there with Killian and Katie, our guest. She's on there too. So, it's funny. I was worried about the pace as it was, a 19-hour schedule, and then to set off at a 18-hour pace for leg one. Like, I think it was 3:05 or 3:06 he did leg one in, and I was stressing about 3:15. So quite quickly became very uncomfortable on leg one. Luckily, my goodness me, saviour for Ali was John. His navigation was pretty accomplished on the high fells, and John stayed with him, and me and another guy, Rob, just vanished into the clag behind him. And that was that really. Probably I could probably see him for maybe 3 mile, 3-4 mile. We got to Skiddaw maybe about a minute and a half behind him. We got there just over an hour and 11, and I think it was 1 hour 11 and 30 seconds, while the schedule was 1 hour 11. So we weren't too far off that, me and this guy Rob. But it was horrible weather, Eddie. My goodness me, you couldn't barely see. It was windy. It was snowing. Not a nice place to hang around. So Ali didn't hang around, obviously, and just kept going off into the Calver Bog. And luckily, Rob and I were together in our misery. And look, Rob, I wanted to carry on actually and just do the leg at pace to satisfy myself that I'd done what I was asked. But Rob, yeah, but Rob, and rightly so, he said, well, if we go this way, we'll meet Ali on going up Blencathra and we can offer him food and drink if he wants it. So that's what we did. We took it wasn't a shortcut. It was just a flatter detour to get onto Blencathra. So, but on the way, Rob fell over and took me out with him. So we're both, it's quite funny. And then I took a dunk in the river as we crossed it. I lost my foot in and went right in. It was horrible.
I thought you said I took a dunk.
That's just disgusting.
I was like, oh, I'm shaking.
I wouldn't have put that out on podcast.
So were you carrying stuff for him, food and
yes.
stuff? Oh, well, Gary.
I know. Luckily, John had maybe not enough to fully satisfy the calories and stuff that he needed, but enough to get him round. And, we saw Ali on Blencathra and we said, do you want your drink, on some food? He was fine. He said, John's got enough. And then off he went into the clag again and vanished. So he was okay, and I was worried that, my goodness, the classic is a lot of people go too fast on leg one. And, but John said, obviously his time kind of backs it up. He didn't go too fast.
Do you think you'd have been better off joining him on a later leg, even though it would have been fast? He must have tore out on that leg one. A lot of adrenaline. Yeah,
who knows? The leg pace was always pretty fast, but yeah, maybe like a leg 4 or leg 5.
Is there a leg that suits you better? Because leg one is direct, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. The elevation on the say leg one and leg two are pretty similar, but it's a different type. Like leg one is just up, down, up, down, up, down. It's three big.
It's relentless, isn't it?
I don't know actually. Yeah, maybe a different leg I think might have suited me better. But what I did learn, is I will not volunteer for a leg one crew for somebody.
Don't
who's
worry, I don't think anyone's going to ask you.
But I will, but just not for someone who's like Ali's a 220 something marathon runner, so he's got some serious speed, and he's been training a lot in the hills. So a lesson for myself when somebody's got that much more ability than me, and then if they do go fast early on, then I couldn't. Simple as that. I couldn't live with it. But luckily, I was with Rob, and me and Rob had similar ability, so we stayed together.
How did you then turn around and just go back?
No. We took the detour to Blencathra, and then we just carried on. We didn't summit Blencathra. We just kind of cut across, and then went down. Oh, is it Doddick or Halls? I can't remember. But we finished the leg, and then I jogged back to Keswick on the cycle path. So I was pretty, apart from the 3 o'clock alarm call and zero sleep because of the nasal chorus that was in the dormitory that we were in. It was quite noisy, put it that way. So I didn't get much sleep. But apart from that, it was great. We saw Nikki Spinks. She came into Threlkeld at the same time as Ali had just left. So that was quite a treat to see her as she kind of headed up to Clough Head. And I went back to Keswick, and surprise, I don't actually think I had a pasty on the Saturday.
No, you didn't deserve it. I wouldn't.
No, I felt a bit sorry for myself. Yeah. So I had a cup of coffee and back to the northeast.
Well, I'm sure Ali appreciated you giving up your time. And anyone that does the 17-hour above Graham, they're going to struggle to find people to support him. So I'm sure he was hugely grateful just for the moment of company that you gave him. I'm sure made his round.
Little distraction, yeah. I know he's got a shout out on this global,
on the worldwide international stage.
But it was amazing watching the dot. People who love dot watching, he just never let up. It was amazing just to see the splits, because you knew he had his PDF with all his targets for the summits, but he was just consistently just a few minutes ahead every time, and just progressively getting further and further ahead of his schedule. So my goodness, 17:57. I forget the seconds, but amazing effort. So well done, Ali. It was very enjoyable for the 30 seconds or whatever it was. 30 minutes I was with him. That was, but very good, very good. I'm not scarred for my attempt, so I'm okay.
No, fired it up.
And what else has happened this week? I went to see the Sunderland Trailblazers, did a 3 times a mile in the lovely Penshaw Woods up near Sunderland. So that was good. And I had a trip to the dentist today.
Oh,
I had a
not
deep
so good.
clean.
Oh, a deep clean.
Deep clean and a redo of a filling, which I wasn't too happy about.
I can see now you're sort of glinting. Yeah. In Friends when Ross puts the really white...
I'm watching the SAS thing at the moment, and one of the guys
I watched that too.
Have you seen
their teeth?
Wow.
Ridiculous. You couldn't be in camouflage. That's what Bryn says. He's like, just, as soon as he smiles.
Yeah. I was jealous. They were pretty... I've never done anything about these veneers and stuff like that. We're on a proper tangent here, but can you set the whiteness of your teeth?
I don't think you're asking the right person. A dentist must listen to this. Can you set the... Do you watch that SAS, whatever, Who Dares Dream, whatever it's called? I watch that and go, I'd absolutely smash that. I would love that. There's not one thing they couldn't... I'd be like, The only bit I wouldn't like is when they put the balaclava over my head. I'd be like, no, not having, no. But I'm like...
Listen, Channel 4, sign her up.
When they go 3K run up there, I'd be like, yes. Bryn is always laughing because he's like, they put weight on you and you'd be useless. And then they'd get you cold and you'd be whining.
That's the thing for me. The cold would wreck me immediately. I'm not a fan of being wet and cold.
No, and then knowing, that's the hardest thing I think, is that not knowing is when you're going to get warm.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm stuck in it. That's hard. That's, yeah, maybe I'm a bit gung-ho about the whole thing. You always do, though, aren't you, when you're sofa watching? You're like,
sitting on the sofa, it's easy.
It's easy, that SAS stuff.
Yeah, we'll just catch up with this week's news. What has been happening, Eddie?
Well, we had the very sad news over the weekend of 21 Chinese ultra runners who perished during the Yellow River Stone 100K in China. Really sad news. A lot of mixed messages come out. I've read up quite a bit about it on different forums, on the internet. Lots of people pointing fingers at the race directors, at the runners, saying they were poorly equipped. At the race, the mandatory kit list, apparently there was very limited kit list, if any, on the website. Obviously, it's always hard to get news out of China. But a lovely story that did come out of it was the shepherd who managed to save six of the runners by bringing them into his cave. And he said that's what anybody would do in his situation. But I'm sure those runners are forever grateful for him. But very sad, but also highlighted to me, probably to you too, Gary, about sometimes how we can get a little bit nonchalant about our time in the high hills and our kit that we carry. And also when I read it, I was like, how did they die? How 21 people died? But I've been up in a storm in the winter, not in the summer, at 2,500 meters, and literally been almost blown off my skis, and it's freezing. And I can't imagine being up in that sort of weather in shorts and t-shirts. So our prayers and thoughts go out to all those who have lost family and friends, and to anybody involved with the races. And I think the thing we can take out of it is, if you're going up in the hills, if you're going up in the mountains, make sure you take adequate survival kit with you.
Yeah.
What do you take, Gary? What's your sort of go-to?
Well, I always have not always, I'll be lying if I said always, but usually, say on Saturday, I had a waterproof jacket. I didn't have waterproof trousers, but I did have a bivy bag too. So
I think the bivy bag is the thing, isn't it? And the survival blanket is great. I always carry a survival blanket wherever I go, because it's the first thing, isn't it? If you ever hurt yourself, or you're with a mate that's hurt themselves, but actually a bivy bag is going to save your life. I'm not sure a survival blanket is going to do anything in that sort of conditions.
I do need to check mine, actually. I've bought it for kit requirement for ultras, but the last time I opened it up and checked, it wasn't just kind of powder inside the bag. I should really see how it's doing in there. But yeah, definitely a bivy bag. And a phone, if you get lost, if you can get a signal, mobile phone's always a good thing to have.
Hat, gloves.
Yeah, well, you just never know. We laughed about it earlier, but I fell over in the water, and Rob fell over and took me over. If we, for some reason, couldn't move fast enough, then to get out from where we were is a long walk. So,
and there's a lot of chat about the danger then you put on the rescue services as well when you're inadequately prepared. Definitely. So I reckon there'll be a lot of race directors relooking at kit lists, relooking at the way that they check kit. But at the end of the day, it's us runners that are responsible for ourselves. So if you don't carry warm weather kit and safety kit with you, or you're not sure how to handle yourself if in a cold environment, then do something about it. Read up about it. And as Bryn always says to me, you see the weather coming in, you feel yourself getting cold, put your kit on before, because that's the biggest mistake we all make, don't we? Especially racing. We don't waiting too long, and then you can't get the zip up. And it's game.
And don't give race directors grief because you don't think you should carry
that kit. And honestly, if you think carrying a kilogram of extra kit is going to make a difference to your result, well, maybe just a few less pasties instead.
Oh, was that aimed at me?
I'm quite a bit of mood on tonight, haven't I, Gary? Sorry, it wasn't aimed at you
it tonight. Oh my goodness.
Let's move on. Other news. What have you got?
Damien Hall is out on the Wainwright's coast to coast as we speak, actually. And the last time I got any intel, blimey, but the last time I think I saw an Innovate update, he was up on schedule. So
he's making it look easy, isn't he? He's dancing over those trucks.
Like 40 something miles in 8 hours, and I was crunching the numbers. I'm thinking, oh, he's moving there. And I saw he had his Terra Ultra G270s, which I bought myself a brand new shiny pair for the for the Bob Graham round. So fingers crossed. And what else? Oh, Elise was in action the other night up in Gateshead.
Did you watch? I mean, I meant what?
Sorry.
Leash, I was supporting you all the way. I meant to message you, Gary, to go, is that what your weather's always like? I mean,
yeah, it is.
Honestly.
May it has been.
Oh, did you?
She came sixth.
She did amazing, because I can imagine she didn't like that weather either. Oof.
Well, and 1,500 metres, I think that's not what she's been focusing on recently. But yeah, I wish, you know what, I was off the ball. I should have known about it, and I should have got myself tickets and went up there. But I didn't.
Never mind.
And what else has happened? My goodness, Nikki Spinks. She was after the Women's Lake District 24-hour record. I think Carol Morgan holds that at the moment, but she called it a day. She was I think she was going up Red Pike, which would have been peak number 43. But I can confirm that every summit I saw at the weekend was full of clag, and she confirms that too. It was just horrible. As soon as you go over a certain meter of elevation, you were just in poor visibility. It was snowing. It just wasn't much fun at all, really. And Carol Morgan also, she was out trying the Wainwrights, what Sabrina G attempted a short while ago, but she called it a day too.
Also in the media this week, where the death of Ron Hill was reported. And I thought there was some quite interesting facts about him, not just his tracksuit bottoms, which I had a pair of when I was young. I was very proud of my Ron Hill tracksuit bottoms. He was the first man, I didn't know this, to run 2 hours 10 on a certified marathon course. He was the European marathon champion. He was the Commonwealth marathon champion in 1970. And one of the most interesting things about him was he was the groundbreaker behind Run Streaks. And he has the world record of 52 years and 39 days. Some of these days he broke his leg, and he actually did it on crutches.
Yeah.
52 years and 39 days. What a legend, a sad loss to our sport, but leaving a legacy of tracksuit bottoms and run streaks in his wake.
I saw a nice string vest too on some fantastic images. You know, people were sharing some great images of the events that he won. And there was just a great black and white vest with him just as he was coming to the finish of a race with the string vest on. And, you know, everyone's got their super shoes these days. I think he must have had...
There he is, in his DAPs
3 millimeters.
String vest.
Yeah, smashing it.
What a ledge. This week, we catch up with Kaars Sijpesteijn. You might notice we both pronounced her name differently, just so that Gary can't edit this out. We're going to ask her. We were talking to her after this chat. We are going to ask her all about how she's doing in her first pregnancy, her relationship with Salomon, how she got into trail running, and Gary is going to grill her endlessly about her Bob Graham round. Here we have our chat with Katie.
Thanks for listening, and if you're enjoying this episode, then pop a post on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Also leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you are tuning in from. Head over to YouTube too and subscribe to our channel.
We are delighted to welcome to the show Kaars Sijpesteijn, a long-term friend of mine, and soon to be Gary's new best friend when he asks her everything about Bob Graham. Hello, Katie. How are you? What are you up to today?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm actually sat in a boathouse on the shore.
I wondered why you were sitting down by your bed.
Well, which is not my bed, but it is a bed. I'm on holiday in the lakes. Today I haven't been for a run, but we've been for a walk on some of the leg 3 of Bob Graham. Nice, and been for a canoe. Like a Pocahontas style canoe. So that was basically my day. It's all relaxing and feeling very relaxed.
Oh, thank you so much for talking to us on your holiday. So you on where in the Lake District, like you on Lake Windermere in a boat?
Yeah. Well, we're in a boathouse, which is like being converted into a house. So it's not, there's like a boat, boat house underneath. But it's just in just south of Bowness. So on the eastern side of Windermere Lake.
Oh, nice.
Oh, lovely. And would we call it, this is a baby moon?
Well, kind of, but I'm actually on holiday with my parents and my sister, because which I wouldn't have thought I would be doing a year ago. But having the year that we've all had, it's like, would you like to come on holiday as a family? It's like, yeah, that sounds great. Because obviously the restrictions in the UK have only just lifted.
Yeah.
To be able to stay with other people that aren't in your household, that only lifted like a week ago. So this was like our first opportunity, and probably one of the last weeks I'll be doing so much. So it kind of worked out quite well.
Before we get back into your sort of history and how you got into ultra running, we will just share the happy news that Katie is pregnant and very soon expecting her first baby with her handsome husband, Casper. How have you been feeling throughout the pregnancy? And what have you been, because you've been doing a special challenge as well. So you've obviously been able to keep quite active.
Yeah, I mean, for the first like 5 months, I was still training, not hard, but because I thought I might do a race in about February time, which ended up being cancelled. So, and actually around that time was about the time when I felt like I couldn't really like push anymore, and it just felt like, but I was still fine running, and so I sort of ran a marathon, just a local. Not a race, just with Casper, at 5 months, because I kind of thought, oh, it's gonna go down, not downhill, but it's gonna reduce.
No, you're right. That's a very good word. It does all go down.
Do that while I can. So I did that. You know, it was just like undulating, like local to where I live. And then it's sort of between 5 and 6, that's when it really, like, I couldn't run as much, like a little bit of sort of, it just, not that it felt uncomfortable, but there was just like a little bit of pain, and I've just been like super, super cautious. But then that was like coincided with us allowing to travel again, just like day trips, but I could go to the lakes. So I basically just got my poles out, and I've been hiking a lot since then. And then I had this idea in my head, because I get these ideas in my head, of, oh, let's see how many Wainwrights I can do. Like some in, some maybe out. So I'm going to try and do them in a year, but I started at like -3 months, and see, you know, if I can't go up a hill with them, then, you know, I'm not going to get cross over it if I can't do it in a year. But I just thought it was good motivation to sort of get me out.
Yeah.
So sort of the end of April, we've been to the lakes every weekend just for the day, and just ticked off some Wainwrights. So you know, it's amazing how you know, just marching up the hill, you can still get, because I was missing that adrenaline kick. And actually, you know, no impact, and actually you can still get your heart rate going, but not too much going up the hill.
And you've got a lovely collage of pictures now of you at the top of every...
Well, I've ticked off loads this week, which is very exciting.
I love your efficiency.
Yeah, I just keep it like a little, you know, I've taken a selfie on each one, you know, whoever happens to be. A lot of them I've done my own, and Casper's been out running locally, so he's not far away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been really nice, and quite a nice motivator to sort of feel, because I haven't had like a race to look forward to. It's like for focus, and I felt like that's what I missed, and I needed that something to aim for. So it's kind of an alternative thing to
it's a lovely challenge, and a really good top tip for anybody who's pregnant is to think of something like that, and your baby will love it. If they're anything like my kids, that they'll be able to go, was that me in your tummy, and that was it, and then you'll be able to go up and you'll be able to recreate it year after year. Right. If they get like bigger, and they'll have one time in the backpack, and then one time on the shoulders, one time with them crying and going, oh, I hate hiking, and then when they get like 6 or 7, and they'll be there in their little, I can imagine they're in their massive Salomon hiking boots. So I think it's so lovely. It's such a lovely challenge. Let's rewind a little bit. Perhaps you could share a little bit of how you came to be one of Great Britain's most successful record-breaking ultra runners. Can you start us right from the beginning of how you got into running and where that journey's led you so far?
So I've always kind of run as long as I can remember, like at school. I did long distance at school, which was obviously 800 or 1500 meters, which is a sprint to us all now. But
at the time, it was we've talked about that before, haven't we, Gary? That it was such a long way.
And you could say I was fortunate or unfortunate. It felt unfortunate at the time that I didn't have many sporty girls in my year at school. So team sports were a little bit difficult because obviously you need a team. So like netball and hockey. And so running was obviously, I know we can say it's a team sport, but ultimately it is you just, to be able to compete and do it, you only need yourself. And so I just sort of fell into it naturally because I was probably one of a handful of girls that did any sport. And so sort of always ran at sort of county level, sort of through secondary school, and then didn't do much sort of late teens. But then I ran my first marathon when I was 19, which my mum has always run, well, not always, but for a long time has run marathons, but road marathons.
Yeah.
So it was a normal thing to do in our household. It wasn't like a massive deal. It was just like, okay, she's going to train to do marathon. So, I did my marathon. It's like, oh yeah, well done. And so I didn't do a huge amount early 20s. And then actually when Casper and I met, I did like road running. I'd never run on the trail or the fell, and just to keep fit. And Casper did quite a lot of hill walking. And so it was sort of us coming together that we kind of combined his hill walking with my road running. It was something we could do together. Like our first date was a run up Penny Ghent, which
this does not surprise me.
Which I felt all cocky about because I was like, oh, I'm the runner.
Yeah.
But I didn't appreciate how different running off-road and up a hill was. And so I tend up, those bottles that you often see like road runners using. It's like a very small bottle, probably like 250 ml, but it's like a donut. It's got like a hole in it.
Yeah.
So I was at Penny Ghent with my road shoes and my handheld bottle thing, no waterproof, no kit or anything. But anyway, we all know it turned out all right in the end. Then shortly after that, I don't know, maybe like a year or two, Casper heard of this thing called the Lakeland 50. And he was like, oh, wow, let's aim for this. So then we entered the Lakeland 50, and that was actually my first ever trail race, was the Lakeland 50, which is obviously quite a jump. But ran it as a pair. I don't know if you can still do that, but you could run and enter as a pair, so you have to stick together. And we got round and absolutely loved it. And then from there, that's sort of how it started. And then you get more and more ideas, and you train a bit more, get a bit faster, and that was actually 2011. So that was 10 years ago. We did the Lakeland 50. Then, that's kind of how it started. And from there,
you didn't just get faster. You became the fastest woman ever still on the Lakeland 50 race. And you've gone back and almost matched that time again. And I'm not sure anybody that is one smoking fast time that you have on that course.
I was curious how your training had evolved, actually. I remember years and years ago, would have been maybe 2013 time. I probably bumped into you quite a few times doing Hardmoors races, Gothland Marathon maybe. And at the time we were like roughly, I've looked back at the results and we were similar times for some of the events. But obviously now you've gone on to this, dizzy heights like Lakeland 50 time and stuff like that. How has your training evolved over the years? Because mine's stagnated.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. I mean, I love the hard mod races, and I did loads and loads of them. And after Casper and I did that Lakeland 50 the first time, we then wanted another one and found the Hardmoors 60, and then ended up doing loads of those races because I then wanted my Hardmoors 1000, club.
Yeah.
As soon as I get an idea in my head, I'm just like focused, and so did loads of them to get that 1000. But it was funny actually. I think it was 2015. I did the Hardmoors 60, which is like September time.
Yeah.
And I stopped. I didn't finish the race, and that was the first time the first and only time that I've stopped a race. And to me, I quit the race. I know people can say they stopped, but to me, like, I don't put that on anyone else, but to me, like, I stopped, and I had like excruciating stomach pain, and it was the right thing to do. But to me, I'm such a stubborn person. Like, it like brought me down that I stopped then. And so I did loads of stuff over like researching what I was eating and how I was training. And I think almost the fact that I did stop that race, it kind of gave me this like drive. It's like I never want to be in that feeling so rubbish again like that in a race. And I think after that, so that was like the end of 2015, and then 2016, Casper and I did a race called the Transalpine race, which is a 7-day, if you've heard of it, it's a 7-day sort of race from Germany over to.
Oh wow, okay.
It's stage race, so it's not continuous.
Yeah.
So we sort of really went for it on training, loads of back days. But I didn't like have a coach at the time or anything, so I wasn't doing anything specific. But I guess I upped the mileage, but probably upped the time on my feet as opposed to upping the mileage. Just did loads and loads of ascent. And I'm naturally, I don't have to work on my downhill. My downhill's naturally, I'm just quite confident on it, which I count as lucky that I am.
Yeah.
But I think it was like 2016 and training for the Transalp that we were literally in the lakes every weekend, like back days. And I think that kind of just gave me this kind of core sort of fitness.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you start doing well in races, it just sort of eggs you on a little bit as well. But I wouldn't say there was anything like I suddenly flipped and I changed the way I trained. I think it's just, I think just building it up really gradually as well. And like recognizing when you're tired and not running that day, or you don't have to run every day. Over that period, I worked in London as well. Okay. So I would tend to be in London sort of Monday to Thursday, and I'd often not even run Monday to Thursday. But I'd cycle 20 miles a day to work. And obviously it was totally flat. But, I'd do my intervals along, the embankment, and, I'd had an old bike, an old kit on, and I took satisfaction in chasing down those Rafa guys with their super carbon bikes and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess just working with what you've got. No one's in a perfect situation when they can go on a perfect bell run every day or a perfect flat run to build, your speed every day. I think it's just working with what you've got and just enjoying it, which I'm not saying, you enjoy every moment. Like, I'm not denying that. Like, you do have to train. But I think it's just, there's lots of, and I'm sure Eddie will sort of second this, there's lots of ways to achieve the same thing. So like, if you want to build your speed, you don't necessarily, there might be different workouts that work for different people, but you get to this goal, and it's sort of finding what you enjoy. So it's not, doesn't ever feel like a chore. I mean, sometimes it'll feel like a chore, but not, you want most of the runs to be enjoyable. So I think, I know that's a really long answer, but I think
no, it's perfect. And I think you're so lucky as well in that in Casper you have an amazing training partner who you want to spend the time with as well, but also you push each other for different reasons. I remember when you came out to stay here and we tried to do this run in the snow, and we started up this big pitch, and I was like, let's just walk, Kate. And you were like, Casper would never let me walk. We'd be like racing each other up this hill now. And I was like, I see how this relationship works.
Are you part of an athletics club?
So I'm actually a member of Keswick AC.
Okay.
But I don't train with them because ordinarily they're training during the week and then racing at the weekend.
Yeah.
And I live in Leeds, which is quite a long way from Keswick. But because I joined them at the start of 2018, because I was a member of a club in Leeds, but I wanted to be sort of a member of a like competitive club, because I liked the idea of like that sort of team spirit, they're a fantastic group of girls. They're really like encouraging, and there's a real range of like abilities. And because I'd spent so much time in the lakes, it just felt natural and around the Keswick area to join them. But as I say, fortunately, I would love to train with them, but because of where I actually live, it's not practical.
We'll go back to Keswick, actually. I know a coincidence. I think we were both lucky. I had a fantastic day out on leg 5, Recce Bob Graham round, and I'm pretty sure you were coming up Robinson as I was going down with a friend, Aaron, and I'd said, I think that's Katie Kaars. And then I think later on that day, it popped up on Facebook that you completed the T round. I think it's 6:26.
Oh, yeah. Was that which should have been early, like July, I think, or late June? It was sunny, but it wasn't like too hot. And it's if you've done the route, it's an absolutely fantastic route.
Yeah.
It's quite chewy in terms of like ascent, but I love. And Eddie will probably know this. I'm an avid recceer, so if I'm going to go and try and go as fast as I can, there's no. I don't want to be like faffing around navigating. So I want to know that I've done like the fastest and the best that I can.
Yeah.
That might be different to someone else, but I just want to feel satisfied that I've done everything I can. So I'd recce'd it quite a few times, and I really enjoyed like finding the different lines. And but yeah, no, that was a great day actually. It's really tough.
Could you explain what the T round is? I know, but maybe some of our listeners don't know what it is.
Yeah, so it's so Abraham's Tea Room is a cafe above a George Fisher outdoor shop in Keswick, and I don't know who did this painting or this picture, but the Abraham Tea Round, there's a is all the summits that supposedly you can see from the window, because it's on the top floor of this cafe that you can see from the cafe. And so someone who used to work there decided, it would be great to do it as a run. And that's how it started. I think it was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago it started, and it's just sort of built and built. And I think maybe like with, restrictions and not traveling, I think more and more people have done it like recently, because it's one of the only options, when there's no race around. And so, so it's all the hills you can see from the from the cafe, but it's lovely because they started off, you used to get a golden teacup, which you probably knew, but as more and more people started doing it, the person who organised, I know the person who was doing the spraying, and I think it was getting a little bit out of hand, because they were like, every weekend they were having to find some old teacups and spray them with paint. But now they do a lovely like soft badge, which I think is quite nice.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know if you still do, but you used to, when you finish, you used to get invited. You get a free coffee and cake in the cafe if you completed the rest.
I was going to ask you that. I was like, what was your tea and snack of choice after that? Did you get it for free?
When I finished, because I started quite late in the day, the cafe was actually closed. Oh. So I didn't get to go in, which I think they do say I can come back another day, but I didn't. Which is a bit disappointing.
I've got the George Fisher webcam permanently on my computer at the moment to check the summits.
The opening times.
No, it's I need to see if the summits are cloud free or not. I'm doing like weather watch.
The minute it's clear, you're up there. Wait, get your coffee.
It's saying about cloud free summits. I was just thinking, because I don't know, earlier today I did a walk up to sort of Pavey Ark and Harrison Stickle, which is on like section of the Bob Graham leg 3. Yeah. And I said, we won't need to be navigating too much, because I know this bit so well. And it is amazing. Like the clag was down today. Yeah. Amazing. Just around that area as well. So have your compass to hand. So because we used quite a lot today.
It is amazing, like you say, when the clag comes down, how you just disorientates you. And then especially if it's kind of compounded maybe with wind or rain, or it could be at night. I've, even on leg 1, which is pretty simple, there's been a few wrong decisions, which haven't been like spectacularly wrong, but just, cost you, say, maybe 5 or 6 minutes just wandering around aimlessly trying to find the trod or something like that. It's, it's amazing when the clag comes down.
Gary, let's move on to the Bob Graham questions, because you're dying to ask these. And, I don't want to run out of time.
Well, I think we've already touched on it. But training specifically, is there anything you did for the Bob Graham round apart from just like extensively recce the route?
Perhaps you should say how fast you did it first, Gary, so people. Well,
you're on the top. You're on the sub 18-hour page.
Just.
Well, I think they just make the page longer, don't they? They just kind of, it's that 18-hour page. But yeah, a friend of mine did a 17:57 on Saturday. So
yeah,
I was looking at the times, and I saw yours and Casper's there too. So yeah, 17:57, everybody. That's a smoking fast time. Yeah, anything you did specifically training for that?
I think definitely recceing it, which sounds like you've done a lot of that. I think on the hills, because obviously it is so hilly, I think I knew before I set off which ones, where I was going to walk and where I was going to run.
Yeah.
And I find that, and I do that quite a lot with races. I already know what I'm going to do at what stage, which I have done on the Lakeland 50, for example. Yeah. So most climbs out of each road crossing, unless you're Killian, you probably walk up it. But it's amazing. And I'm feeling that at the moment. Like, strangely, I feel quite fit at the moment. And I think it's just, you can
very
walk.
normal. It's very normal.
You can walk up, like the speed of which you can walk up a hill. I mean, I don't know if you're using poles or not. I know that's a very personal thing, but I've been using poles recently, and amazing how fast you can actually move when you're walking. And it's just like, okay, I'm going to walk up this bit, and okay, so this is where I'm going to eat, because it's walking, and you don't want to distract yourself with eating when you're running. And it's just sort of, I always sort of think about the next sort of section. So not necessarily the next leg, but just sort of visualize it a bit as well. It's just like, okay, well, I'll go up that bit. Yeah, no, go around there. Yeah, and there's that bit. Yeah. And it's just sort of thinking about the next bit, but not too far ahead, not thinking like 2 legs along, because then you'll just feel demoralized. And I think it's just keeping that consistent pace. But I think in training wise is just getting that ascent in your legs, and also the descent as well, because that can just really, I think sometimes people forget how much that can take out of you as well. And I think if you have recce, that's great, because you'll have people with you who'll be your official nav, but I think it's still good for you to know, like, okay, this is where, even if you haven't recceed every bit, just to have an idea of what's coming up as well. I don't know if you've been at Beaufell, but it'd be quite nice to know if
we've been there.
So it's not such a shock when you get to it. Sort of like visualizing what's coming. And I know everyone says this, but it's just so important, because I think lots of people do still forget, is just keep eating and just little and often, and not, I mean, again, I think it's personal preference, but I didn't sit down at all at the road crossings. I stopped for varying amounts of time, but just staying stood up and just trying to keep moving with my food. Depends, what time you want to do, but I just felt like it would be harder to get going again if stopped.
I never do that. If I've done, say, the Lakeland 100 or Harmos 110, I never sit down. I think the chair is an evil place once you get sat down in there.
My knees.
Yeah.
Too old now.
And you make a good point. I do that too. Say if I set a little alarm on my watch to beep every, say, 20 minutes or something, but it might not coincide with the best place to eat. You might be kind of flying down the fell or something like that. So I'll manage it. So I know if, like you say, looking ahead slightly, you'll think, okay, I'll eat now instead of 10 minutes time when you're coming off skid or something like that. So it's all good. But I'm really interested on your 17:57 with Casper. Because I'm running in a pair too. Me and a friend are doing it. And how did your highs and lows sync up, or were there moments when you were up and Casper was down?
I'd love to say Casper had a spell of being down, but I don't think he did. I guess we were a unique pair, because we were always going to go at I was the weak link. We were always at my speed. And to put it in perspective, he was carrying a 20-litre rucksack all the way around. I mean, he didn't have his baking balls in his bag that day, which is what he usually does when we run. Give himself more weight. So you might not have ever made pastry, but if you make pastry, you have cooking heavy balls. I think 2 packets actually permanently in the bottom of his rucksack. So he carried all his own food, a bit of mine, other stuff. And still probably didn't have. He's quite incredible. I mean, on downhills, I'm probably a little bit faster, especially when it's technical. Down, but that's more skill rather than fitness, I think. but going up, he's very much like a 1-speed pony.
Yeah.
It almost feels sometimes that he can run up the same speed as he can run down. And so, I should ask him, but I always think to this day he didn't have any low points, and it was probably me. I must share with you. So I guess I'm a bit of a selfie queen, but we took a picture on top of every hill. I say we. Casper took a photo on top of every hill.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny to look at them, because the first few Skiddaw, I'm like, hi. And it gets to leg 3 and leg 4, and I'm like gruntily squirming and so yeah, and he's all still very jolly. So yeah, I guess we're answer the question. We're quite a unique pair, but it was always going to be me. That was the factor. Yeah.
Now we're getting the nitty gritty. Actually, I've got a few route choice questions. How did you? Was it Broadstand or Lord's Rake? How did you get up to Scafell?
Yeah, so we went up Lord's Rake.
Yeah.
And then like Westwall Traverse that way, which I know is not necessarily the quickest necessarily, but that's just the way we decided to go. I wanted as fewer people out there support. So for leg 3, we only had one person. We had Jim Mann with, and I just wanted it to be as few people as, and then there's nothing against people who have, if you want to go super fast, to go up there or enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it just felt like another sort of thing to organise as well. Having someone there with a rope and like asking extra people, and we wanted to be quite flexible on our date. So if the weather was bad, we could just say right, change, and those handful of people that helped us would have been up to that. Yeah. So decided to go the Lord's Rake. I mean, and also for me, I wasn't trying to break a record, because at the time it was obviously Jasmine's record at 24, and I knew that I'd be nowhere near that. So I just wanted to go as fast as I was aiming for 18 hours.
Yeah.
And I knew that I could do the route choices I made. I knew that, I hoped that 18 hours would be possible in those. And similarly to Brilliant Cathra as well, we actually came down Doddick Fell.
Okay, yeah.
Which I guess a lot of people go down like the Parachute or Halls Fell, but Casper and I actually tested it out a couple of times. I'd never been on the Parachute, but also I just felt so early on, it's quite a risk if you fall, especially if it's sometimes dark. Well, so we actually we ran down. We started at the top, and one of us went down Doddick and one went down Halls in training. And we did it a couple of times to test. And we tried to, obviously we don't know if we're running the same effort, but usually, it wasn't too much different. So, and although Doddick is longer, because you've got to run further along at the bottom, we could just run down it so much better than Halls Fell. Why we chose Doddick.
I think especially on a wet day, Hallsfell now, it's so slippy. You can just see all the footwear, all the people's bums have smoothed the rocks and stuff like that. But yeah, the Parachute, my goodness me, I don't fancy that. And I think even if I had a rope, I wouldn't go Broadstand. I think I'd always do the way that you went. What footwear would, if you were to go tomorrow, I know that maybe the Salomon line has changed slightly since you did it. But yeah, if you had just you were heading off tomorrow, what would you reach for?
I think I would definitely go, I would wear the Speed, which now is actually discontinued, but it's called what's the new one called? There's I can't remember what it's called. I think it still has Speed in its name, but it's basically got a built-in sock now. So might have seen it because it's relatively new. But just because it has the best tread, I would call it like Salomon's fell shoe, as opposed to a trail shoe, which most of them are. And I think because you can make so much time up on the downhills, on the Bob Graham, obviously comfort is the ultimate factor, and some people, you've got that has to come first. It has to be a comfortable shoe. But I think with a good tread, especially if it's you're out there for such a long time, it can start raining.
Yeah.
And you want as much grip as you can to make up that time on the. I always think it's interesting looking at Jasmine splits, because some of her descending time is just phenomenal. And I think, she is a fantastic descender.
Yeah.
And it just shows you can always make. I always feel you can make up more time on the downhill than you can lose on the uphill. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So something, I would wear the Speed if I was going to do it tomorrow.
She mentioned that shoe too, actually. She didn't mention it by name, but it was, when I Googled it, it was the one with the kind of the sock that pops out the top. So she'd picked the same shoe too. Oh, it's interesting. That's 2 recommendations, Eddie. I feel I'll be on Salomon.com later on.
Speed deliveries.
Yeah, I need to get it pretty quick, don't I? Your favorite leg?
I think definitely leg 3. I know it's probably like the hardest, but I think I like I think not so much the first bit to like high raise and Sergeant Man, but the bit I was explaining I was on today from like Thunascar Knot, sort of that circling round the Langdale Pikes.
Yeah.
And then down over to like Broad End and over to the Scarfells.
It just progressively gets rockier and rockier. It's quite
and
a
I think on that section, it's actually you can run quite a lot of it. There's quite a lot of sort of like, not loops, like arcs you sort of run round. And I think sort of that feeling when you get to Beaufell, you feel like I've broken the back of this section. Which is nice. And I think although people love to complain about it, I think you can't beat getting to the top of Scarfell Pike when you might not have seen anyone for ages and there's all these tourists up there, and it's just sort of like everyone feels invincible, don't they, when they're running and there's these tourists that are the gasping for air because they've walked up one hill. And let's not pretend that we don't all feel a little bit good. That when you then run down.
One of my favourite summertime occupations is to lap people like 6 times. Ça va? Bonjour. And then...
I'm always staggered by the complete inappropriate attire that people go to Scarfell Pike in. It's quite amazing.
So I think that and I think you've got loads of different bits of leg 3 as well, and then that descent off Scarfell down into Wasdale, and you really feel that like you've got to go U-Barrow, but like you've got it, If you can get up U-Barrow, then you can make it back. So I always think.
I've always just enjoyed, when I've been doing the recce's and we've been doing big days, out and backs or back-to-back legs, and just if you can keep chugging along. It's just phenomenal. And some of the legs, leg 1, you've got big gaps between the summits, but like say leg 2, once you kind of start getting to the Dodds, it's just like you're just ticking them off quite quick, and before you know it, say 3 hours has passed and it's like, oh my goodness, we're going up Fairfield or something like that.
It's just keeping moving at an okay pace. You don't have to be going super fast, do you? Get around in your 24 hours. You just got to keep moving.
I think that's me, Eddie. I've got all my Intel.
You're ready. You're going to hear Katie's voice in your head once you get to U-Barrow now. You're going to be like, done and dusted.
Once you get up U-Barrow, you've cracked it.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of little questions that aren't about the Bob Graham. Just maybe some little wise bits of nugget. I know you taught me, and I think of this still, Katie, when we went for a ski tour. Katie came to stay, everybody, a few years ago now. Never, she shouldn't been able to come back in, but we will, maybe with baby. But we were newbie ski tourers, but we thought we were pretty good. And we went up this piece, and I think of you every time I go up there now, and I go up going shoo-be-doo-be-doo, and I slipped on the ice, and I took you down with me, and we went crashing down this piste, Gary, and we really fell quite hard, didn't we? Anyway, we were stuck on this like ice field, and it is always, now I've been there it is always horrible, that bit. It's always icy. It's really hard to ski, but we did go like right up the middle in the steepest bit. Anyway, we fell. We couldn't get back up. It was really icy. And Katie said, look, Eddie, this is what my mum always says to me. If you get into this sort of situation, we need to have a snack. Let's not make any big decisions. So we sat on like this ice piece. whatever the temperature was, having this snack until Katie managed to rescue me and we got across anyway. And the Peasters came down to open the Peast and we just pretended we were fine. And we were like, we're having a snack here. Just carry on. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite snack to have how do you fuel yourself on these super long training days? What's your sort of snack of choice?
So when I'm training, tends to be more sort of bars and flapjack type for stuff, with some gels as well. I didn't used to train with gels because I just sort of thought, I'll save them so they'll have super impact on racing.
Yeah, I always think that too, and they're quite expensive.
Yeah, exactly. But then I thought, well, someone gave me some advice that actually you need to train, like especially closer to a race, to train your body to get used to them. So you don't have, well, you're less likely to have sort of stomach issues if your body's used to having the gels. I mean, another thing I used to do, which is terrible, but I used to not eat so much on training because then I thought, well, if I then eat on the race, I'll then feel super good. But I've since learned that's a terrible thing to do because then your body is just on, you're behind in terms of recovery before you've even finished the training run. So I actually fuel a lot on my training runs now. Not, if I'm going out for an easy 60 minutes, I'm clearly not going to eat. But if I'm going out for a big day, I will eat as if I'm doing a race. That's how much I'll fuel on it. Because then I realized actually then you can do optimal training as opposed to, if you can't fuel your training, then you're not going to be optimizing the benefit of it. So yeah, more of a mix of like bars and gels when I'm training, but then when I'm actually racing, I can go to about 6 hours on just gels alone. But then after that, I'd need to introduce like more solid stuff.
Yeah, you start to get actually hungry then, don't you? And you're like, actually, my body actually needs something solid.
But I have it's almost like an emergency race item to eat. So on the when I did the Lakeland 50 actually in 2017, it was at Mardale Head, which I think is about 26 miles in. It's maybe not quite halfway, but not far off. And I did actually start to get hungry and sort of just think, I was like, oh God, have I gone too fast? So the secret surprise bar of choice that was a Boost bar, like the chocolate bar.
It's a high quality treat.
Yeah, very high quality. So I ate that as I was going up the hill, and I always sort of think, I think if you're going like super, super long, you obviously need a bit more like savory stuff. But I think on something sort of up to sort of 8 hours-ish, just have something that you really, really like. Because, at the end of the day, it's just sugar. So
it's just sugar in many forms, and just eat it and enjoy it.
I wouldn't advocate eating like 5 Boost bars that'd be your only food. But I think for the psychological as well, I was like, oh, this is really good. I really like this. And so I always have a pick-me-up kind of bar which I don't always eat, but sometimes I do. And that occasion I did. So always have that. I've been known to have, Freddo bars.
Oh, yeah.
They used to be 10 pence. They're clearly not anymore. But I sometimes have one of those in my bag, like just really dirty chocolate, basically.
There's no chocolate in it. It's just
seems to do the trick. And again, it would just be one of them, not like multiple. But just in case I'm having a little bit of a low and I just want to.
I bet Casper has a few in his bag, right? Especially at the moment.
Yeah.
Come on, Katie. Come on,
yeah. Well, today's food of choice, because that's what is great about hiking and not like this is a hike and not a run. Is that you can sit on the summit and have a look around because that's what.
Yeah.
We had peanut butter and jam sandwiches today, and that's it. I'm not going back to running. I'll probably just stay at this and.
Happy hiking. Everyone loves happy hiking. And what about, Katie, when you finish a race, what is your post-race snack of choice?
Well, I always go for the chocolate milkshake, and normally one which actually has protein in it. But if you can't get that, just, because milk is still a great recovery. It doesn't have to be a super vitamin charged expensive powder. Usually chocolate milkshake, and then depending where we are, often if we're in Keswick, it might be like a pasty. So like a nice,
love hearts coming out of Gary right now is like
mind blown.
Not like a Greg's level, like a premium, fancy name one.
Yeah.
You've got to go quality. If you're going to snack, you got to go quality, haven't you? You can't.
Yeah.
I was curious, when you were talking about when you're kind of going back a bit, really, but some people really analyze the carbohydrate they take in per hour. Do you do that, or it's more, I just fancy something to eat now?
Well, I try to have take a gel every 20 minutes, which that was sort of the advice I was given as to how much carbohydrate you can take on in an hour. And at first I was like, whoa, that is a lot. So for when I did the Lakeland 50, I was having a gel one every 45 minutes, which I thought was fine, and that worked for me that day. But now I do take, depending how, it'll be in reality, it's every 20, 25 minutes. But then, it depends how long you're racing for, because how long can you take 3 gels an hour? However much they say gentle on the stomach, and ultimately you're just putting pure sugar inside. And so I think, as I said, to 6-8 hours, I can manage that. But I think after that, but I think it really is consistency. But I'm not really particular, but I think I just have that in my head. Three gels an hour is what whatever that equates to in terms of carbohydrate. But my coach is quite good in terms of, he sort of knows which gels I'm taking, and will sort of do that analysis of, okay, you should probably be having 3 an hour, for example.
So Eddie, it's the serious question now.
This is big, talk. Katie. I don't think you're going to get the answer you want, because I know Katie.
Marathon Talk have their perfect training for 6 months. How fast would you do a mile? We don't mess about with that kind of thing. We just.
How fast can I run a mile?
No. Yeah, we don't. That's too lightweight for us. We go straight. We go in deep.
These are big questions.
If you are in front, I'm going to be disappointed now, aren't I? You primed me for the disappointment. If you're in front of the TV and you were forced to watch Netflix, what would be your show of choice? Guilty pleasure TV show.
Oh, well, I'm going to disappoint. I'm going to probably disappoint you on 2 levels here. So the first is that I don't actually have a TV.
Oh, I think that's fantastic.
The second is, but obviously you can watch. I have turned to going on the turbo machine, because I feel absolutely fine cycling at the moment, but I just don't. I'm more scared of getting knocked off or falling. So that's why I've just gone onto the turbo. But to me, it's one of the most boring things in the world is a turbo machine. And so, but it's probably because I've just sat on it and done spinning my legs, as opposed to, so I've been watching something on iPlayer, and oh God, I don't know if I need to say this.
Yeah, you have to. It's the rule.
So call the midwife. Okay.
Oh, that's so funny. You shouldn't be watching that right now, Katie, though. No more. No more Call the Midwife.
I don't watch TV. And at this stage in my life, I've decided to start watching that. And I don't know why, because I don't know if you've watched it, but
I can't watch it. It's just too much. I just cry.
Yeah. So,
is it Miranda Hart? She's in it?
A baby always dies, Gary.
Oh,
a baby always dies, or something tragic. Bryn's like, I'm not letting you watch this every Sunday night, because I just end up crying. It's like All Creatures Great and Small.
Triggered. Yeah, I couldn't do that.
But it has been quite educational in a way. So that's what I'm watching at the moment. But yeah, I guess what I would normally watch, because I don't normally watch anything. But that is the program, the one and only at the moment.
We got a scoop, Eddie. Call a midwife.
I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, particularly who is pregnant at the moment.
No, don't do it. Don't do it anymore. How you think, talking about being pregnant, how do you think life is going to change when you become, well, I want to say a family of 3, but actually you're going to become a family of 5, aren't you?
We are, yes.
What are they going to make of this new edition?
We
find them. Have you got some books and stuff like?
Well, we've
brother and sister.
Because I really don't know how they're going to react. But
we should perhaps say there's not 2 other little people that, well, they are people, aren't they? But Katie and Casper have 2 rabbits in their life, which are much fun over.
So Gary, if you don't know, which you probably don't, they are house rabbits, so they live in the house. They just hang out, they sit on the sofas, they sometimes join us at the table.
Do they poo everywhere, rabbits?
No, they're potty trained, so they have like a cage in the house, which they get at night. So when we go to bed, they go to bed too, but that is open, so when they need to go to the bathroom, they go into, which is very good. So there isn't stuff everywhere, which is nice.
Are they a cuddly pet, a rabbit? Do they like a cuddle?
Yeah, they do. They love a cuddle.
Yeah.
And I think I've never had a cat or dog, but they're very in tune with how you're feeling as well. So like if I wasn't feeling too well and I was just like laid in bed, like they would come and just they know like other animals, like if you're not yourself, which is I didn't realize I mean, I had rabbits when I was younger, but they were in a cage in the shed, which now is really sad. But yeah, no, they live in the house and they're very much
that's lovely.
very much part of the family. So I don't know how you can imagine a lot of sort of the books that we bought so far. There's quite a rabbit theme going on, so we're hoping that will help sort of bridge the shock of when
baby's going to be like part rabbit, part.
Not Watership Down. That's a tearjerker.
Oh no. And final question from us, Katie, what does the future hold for you? Have you still got some bucket list races that you want to do? How are you seeing in the next 5 years?
Yeah, so I've never been one for sort of bucket races, but then recently I've come to sort of think, oh yeah, actually I quite like to do these races, and I'd never been too keen on the UTMB races, because I just sort of, like a lot of British people, like say, oh, it's too big, and then like I go through that every year, and then I end up watching it, and not doing an awful lot of work on that day because you're avidly following and all these people, and I sort of think, oh, I wish I was doing it. So I think I was entered in the CCC last year, so I was able to defer to next year, which is good. So I really hope to be able to do that next September. So that's one I'd really like to do. And another one I'd really like to do, one of like the big American ones. So hard rock, which I think is like a quite high altitude, or I mean, I love the thought of doing like Western States because of the history of it, but I just think like it really wouldn't be that suited to me.
But hard rock you'd be amazing, and TDS you'd be amazing at too.
I'd love to do TDS, yeah. So I think maybe once I've done CCC, I'll maybe find that, yeah. I think ultimately, I feel like I'd have to do UTMB one day now. I think now I've got over myself that, oh, it's so big. And just sort of like, actually, it is the biggest trail race in the world. And, even I get it even just watching the film on your phone, so like you get the goosebumps and the feeling of it. I can't imagine what it's like when you're actually there and actually running in it. So, and that is cool, having that.
Oh, well, Katie, thank you so much for giving up all this time this evening to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks, Katie.
We will be thinking of you in the next month or so, and look forward to seeing the arrival of Peter Rabbit, or Flopsy or Mopsy, and I'm sure that your wise words of wisdom will be ringing in Gary's ear on his bob.
It's all gone down. I digested it all.
Just do let me know. More than happy to answer them. I know it's not far away, but a huge good luck. It's quite soon, isn't it?
Yeah, next Friday the 4th at 11 p.m, I think, as if I don't know that.
So I'll keep my weather fingers crossed for you.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The forecast, I won't bore you with weather now. The forecast at the moment is very calm all week, and the Saturday and Sunday look nice too.
It's not been great this week, so hopefully that will mean next week will be good.
Lots of love, Katie. Thank you so
much. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you. Take care. Thanks. We've got a few results from last weekend. One of them was the Windermere Marathon. I've done this one before, actually, Eddie. Have you ever done it, Windermere Marathon?
No, it's a good one.
Oh.
Looks fast. It's on the road.
Yeah, it's on the road, but you treated all the views around. Oh goodness me, Windermere. I nearly forgot what lake it was.
Oh.
But Alistair Thornton won it in a time of 2:38.22, which is pretty. I think that's pretty rapid on that course.
Some elevation. Does it have a bit of elevation in it?
It definitely goes up and down a bit. And there is some people actually still out. Well, maybe they finished their 10 and 10. Talk about run streaks. The Windermere Marathon do this 10 and 10. So some people sign up for like a fundraiser and they do a marathon every day for 10 days. And it used to finish, I think, on the day of the marathon. So they did it, but I'm not too sure with COVID. I'm sure I saw something on social media that they were still running today. So maybe it's probably changed a bit. And the ladies winner was Katrine Nathan and a time of 3:16.05. So that is another super fast time on that course. So yeah, well done everybody. What next? We've got the North Downs Way 50. And have you done this one, Eddie? You must have done this one.
I've not done the North Downs Way 50. I've run the course in other races many times. Many times.
And Rai Webb took the win, and that's a men's course record in 6:36.55. And Samantha Amend 7:59.39. Well done, everybody. Fantastic.
This week we're going to have a little competition over on Instagram. On the gram. So what we want on our Instagram. Give us a follow, Run to the Hills with Cheer Charge, and post a picture on your stories tagging us in. You need to tag us in so that we can share it, either with a medal. Then we understood that not everyone's going to be able to run races and win with a medal. So if not with a medal, a pet or animal of your choice. That was obviously Gary's input into this competition.
I'm going to do a medal and a pet.
Oh my God, double bonus points. Post them. Pet with a medal. Oh my God, any combination works. Just post it and let me share it on Facebook, because I love Instagram stories and Gary doesn't understand it.
I don't understand them. I won't say any of these.
I'll put some details on Facebook too, so if you're not sure, maybe some bullet points on how to do an Instagram story. What you got coming up, Gary, this week?
I have got, I think my plan is 5 times 3 minutes, so nothing too strenuous.
Taper classic.
Yeah, and the long run is only an hour long or something, maybe an hour 15 minutes, so it's not big. But what I'm going to do is the long distance Walking Association have their virtual 100 miler this weekend. And some friends of mine from Sedgefield Harriers, Jane Spink and Stuart Park, are doing it. So I thought I'll head over to meet them for an hour or something on their journey. So that'll be fantastic. I'm not too sure the ins and outs. I know with the long distance stuff, the 100-mile cut-off time is quite generous. So that'd be nice. Yeah, nice, end to the training for the Bob Graham round, actually. Nothing too arduous. And I think I've got one more session next week, and then it's just nice and easy. That's me.
So how are we on Pasty Watch with all this tapering? I mean, does the hunger go out of it? I mean, does it just not fulfill you the same, or do you just keep it up?
Plowing through. Well, I was a bit upset today with my dentist, and he told me I couldn't eat for 2 hours, so I had to walk straight past Greg.
Surely I pre-calorie load before the dentist, so whatever they do, I'm ready.
No.
I'm literally eating as I go in and having a cup of tea.
I'd have chia seeds falling on my teeth and stuff like that. But
we're going to chisel it anyway.
I didn't have a pasty today, which was a bit sad. No, you know what? Because I'm running so much less, I'm not craving as much food.
Yeah.
And
I like that. It's a natural. When people worry about carb loading and stuff, I'm like, if you normally eat well and you listen to your body and you eat when you're hungry, you naturally will just not eat as much because you just won't. Your body just won't be asking for it. But surely it always asks for pasties.
It does. I can't. It was my dad's birthday yesterday, and we went round, and my sister had made some sausage rolls, and it was like, I was saying to Lisa, I've got to eat. I've got 2 weeks. Surely I can avoid pastry for 2 weeks. And I've had cake.
She laugh in your face.
Yeah, she just mocked me. She had cake and pasties immediately. I'm like, oh, sausage rolls. Sorry. It was like, I can't do anything. But this is funny. I read Dean Karnas's book, and he mentioned about, I think it was one of his children's birthday parties, and he wouldn't have any cake. And I just thought,
that's not I always have. I'm not a big super cake. I'm not a super sweet tooth person. I always have a piece of cake on my kids' birthdays.
Yeah.
You've got to celebrate it. You've kept them alive for another year. And if I'm at a birthday party somewhere, I always have a bit of their birthday cake because I'm like, it's your way of celebrating happy birthday.
Yeah.
Dude, that's not a life, is it?
What about you? What have you got coming up, Eddie?
Oh, well, God, I've got Geneva half marathon. I can't think about anything else. But I'm quite looking forward to, because it's a nice drive. Going to go off the mountain down Geneva. Beautiful, lovely big lake.
Yeah, lovely.
26 degrees forecast. God, the red face. Gonna have to put
sun cream.
Sun cream. We're starting at about 11:30 because I dropped the kids at school. Then we're gonna drive down. So hopefully finish a late lunch in a cafe, perhaps, because now we can eat outside. But maybe not eat, because I'll probably feel quite sick after that. So just a sparkling water. So have a little cafe trip afterwards. So I'm looking at it as a day trip. And then, so focus on that. And then we're going litter picking this weekend.
Oh, very good.
So before the end sort of a winter, when the snow's all melted, and the kids, we all meet up down in town, and the kids go off with their football coaches, actually. And we each get a little area, and you pick up loads of litter. Guess what most amount of litter is that we pick up? Keep it clean. Keep it PG.
Cans of Stella.
Nope. Think of the French. What do they love? Still.
Wine. Oh, right. Yes. I see.
Yeah. Cigarettes everywhere. Bags and bags and bags of them.
They're still ferocious smokers, the French.
Ferocious smokers who live for it. I mean, it's amazing, England, isn't it? Because you run past anywhere here and they're all still smoking outside, whereas that's quite rare, isn't it, in England?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's changed a lot. What would our litter be? Our litter would be cans of Foster's, Starbucks. Sorry, McDonald's coffee cups.
Yeah.
They're high up on the list. That one good thing with the lockdown, when everything's shut, that it was the personal protection became the new litter, but the food waste, the KFC boxes and stuff like that, all vanished. It was fantastic. But it's not nice. Well, we're talking about other people racing. What have we got for this weekend race-wise? I think I mentioned the long-distance walking event, Virtual 100. So that'll be it all around the country. That people will be doing that. There's also the Grand Union Canal Race. I would love to do this one, Eddie.
Would you? I'll come and crew you if you do, Gary.
145 miles
on a canal path.
Yeah, something about it. Before, when I start running seriously, I read about it and I just thought, oh my goodness. I think Dan Lawson is the course record holder for that. Dan Lawson and Kat Simpson, who we've had on the show a few months ago. What attracts you to that? The canal path? I don't know. It just, I think you is it the running from somewhere to somewhere is quite cool. I love the point to point, but I just was fascinated by the canal. I've done a few runs and races around canals for some reason, and I just love the fact that this whole country is connected. But not the whole country, but big chunks of the country is connected by canals, and to go from Birmingham to London, and I ran from Slough to London, and it was just amazing. And coming into the city and Little Venice around Paddington area. It was just magic. I just thought, this is...
You need to do Country to Capital, which is normally in January, but they've just had it. And that's epic, because you go over the fields and mud for the first like 20-ish miles.
Yeah.
And then you arrive on the canal at 23 miles, and then you can time trial into London. And then there's a sign at the bridge where you take up the left towards Paddington. It says Paddington 13.5 miles. And I know that's a big sign for anyone doing.
Oh, I like the sound of that. But the thing with these canals, though, there's lots of flat, and then you've got these little bumps.
And after 145 miles.
Take its toll. What else we got? Almost 110, 160. So I'm not sure if the 160 starts on Friday, but then the 110 is, I'm pretty sure, is Saturday. So there'll be lots of people weaving their way around the Cleveland Way over the weekend. And I've got a friend, actually, Adam Bridges, who's taking part in that. I'm not even sure if he listens.
I think Kim Cavill is meant to be taking part in that too. I haven't heard from her, but I know she was going to give it another crack. So yeah, good luck to anybody in any of those races this weekend. That was episode 39 of Run to the Hills. I'm Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And let's run to the hills.